Okay, so here's basically the thing. We had another video that was going for a while, and the problem was that unfortunately we got to a part of it, and I don't know if YouTube cut the internet or something happened, but we just didn't have any internet at all. So we are going to be starting this video a little bit later than we normally should be, but let's get into it real quick. Office of Inspector General, St. Louis County man accused of conspiring to steal 16 homes and a duplex. Now, one of the things you have to keep in mind is that at the end of the day, we're seeing a lot of people that are claiming to be disabled or on disability benefits are now turning into criminals because when they investigate them, they find out all the things that they're doing, whether it's jet skiing or riding horses or riding Harleys or RVing all over the country or whatever, which, to be honest, like the RVing all over the country, I think a lot of disabled people need some air on that one because at the end of the day, like a lot of disabled people have interaction difficulties, so they kind of run away from place to place to place to like be alone and be away from people. But the other argument, I guess I could see, but I don't support, is that well, they're going to areas filled with tons of people. Not all of them. Not all of them are going to like areas filled with tons of people. But that is a new thing. I'm going to do a video on the whole RVing thing because I know people that would be affected by that. I think it's important. But I mean, the point is, here's a clear example of a criminal who basically claimed to be disabled. Let's go into it. August 21st, 2025. This was released, so this is breaking news. St. Louis, a man accused of conspiring to steal or try to steal 16 homes and a duplex with bogus deeds appeared in U.S. District Court in St. Louis Thursday and pled not guilty to two separate indictments. James L. Towns Jr., 50, of Berkeley, was originally charged by complaint on June 10th of 2025, so not that long ago. He was indicted by a grand jury on June 25th with one count of mail fraud, one count of access device fraud, one count of unlawful production of an authentication feature, 4 counts of identification theft, and 4 counts of aggravated identity theft. So obviously, he was doing something. You know what I mean? An August 6th superseding indictment charged Towns with a total of 25 counts, including conspiracy, mail fraud, access device fraud, fraudulently affecting transactions, unlawful production of an authentication feature, identity theft, and aggravated identity theft. Towns was indicted in a separate case on August 6th with 1 count of mail fraud, 5 counts of wire fraud, and 4 counts of theft of government funds. So essentially, he's coming off as a bad person, a baddie in this situation, okay? All right, the superseding indictment accuses Towns and Charnay Bartlett, 29, of using a series of deeds to fraudulently transfer the ownership of 16 residences and a duplex between September 2018 and April 2025. Towns and Bartlett stole the identities of the true owners and fraudulently notarized the documents and forged signatures to perpetuate the transfers. The indictment says Towns continued to fraudulently transfer the properties after his notary license was suspended, the indictment says. So basically, he got caught. He kept going. He was a bad notary, a very bad notary. Bartlett faces 1 count of conspiracy, 1 count of fraudulently affecting transactions, 4 counts of unlawful production of an authentication feature, and 4 counts of identity theft. The second indictment accuses Towns of falsely claiming to be disabled from February 17th through August 6, 2025. Towns, it says, claimed not to have a bank account or any resources and said he could not walk more than 5 or 10 steps, do any household chores, or lift, squat, bend, climb stairs, concentrate, or complete tasks. During that time, Towns ran Tight Entertainment and acted as the registered agent of 13 other LLCs, owned 2 investment accounts, became commissioned as a notary public, and filed property deeds, the indictment says. Charges set forth in indictments are merely an accusation and do not constitute proof of guilt. Every defendant is presumed to be innocent unless and until proven guilty. The Department of Housing and Urban Development, Office of Inspector General, the Social Security Administration's Office of Inspector General, the St. Louis County Police Department, and the Hazelwood Police Department investigated the case. Assistant U.S. Attorney Tracy Berry is prosecuting the case. The point that I'm getting at with this, we are seeing an unprecedented amount of individuals who claim to be disabled being caught and having criminal charges being brought against them. The old world of being disabled and doing whatever the hell you want is ending. Now, the whatever the hell you want situation of, hey, I can go and do these crimes and blah, 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 and yada, yada. Yeah, there's baddies like this one. There are. But I'm also seeing cases with a lot of those private hours that I do, like where somebody will go ahead and the SSA will say, okay, well, you're doing this or you're doing that, or we caught you doing this, or we have video footage of you doing that, or we have an interview that we did with somebody that you interact with where you buy groceries from or whatever, that said you're able to do this, and this. What I'm hearing and seeing from doing those private hours, where people can hire me for like a 30-minute or a 60-minute hour, little bio link is below if you want to do them. But the point is, what I'm hearing and seeing is that they're catching a lot of people using investigators in a way that they just weren't getting as many people as they are now from what I'm seeing or hearing. And maybe it's that more people are just reaching out to me now for me to advise them legally on what their options are, how the law works, what are the usual things that happen, can they negotiate an administrative out to this situation. One of the things that I want you to keep in mind that I've noticed is that I've done enough of these calls and interactions with people to know that the main thing you want to focus on as a disabled person is that if they do come after you, you want to go ahead and reduce liability to a lesser problem situation. So if they're coming at you for criminal, you want to get them to back down to civil. If they're coming at you for civil, you want them to back down to just administrative punishment. If they're coming at you for administrative punishment, you're going to try and work a deal that either reduces and monthly payments or you get rid of it in total. You're going to try to really just bake it down to the next level below if you can. This guy obviously is not going to be able to do that. This guy, he's a fraudster, until proven guilty, of course. So maybe not a fraudster yet, although there's quite a few indictments there. So there are charges there and everything. So I guess the point is, we'll have to see what they ultimately come up with, But at the end of the day, I mean, considering what they have against him, I feel like law enforcement feels pretty strong about this. But at the end of the day, I'm seeing smaller infractions too. And that's where people claim that they were unable to do something. And this is another big thing that I want to point out that I think is important. A lot of disabled people get better once they stop working. I'm going to say it again. A lot of disabled people get better once they stop working. Okay, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that a lot of disabled people will basically not have the stress of having to worry about, where their next food check is coming from. A lot of disabled will, not have to worry about waking up at a certain time, going to bed at a certain time. A lot of disabled will not have to worry about, if they can take their medication or if they're working and they can't, they got to, make everything work and they're frustrated and they're all stressed out. When they stop working, right, it's one of the situations where there's usually improvement. And I'm seeing the SSA getting smarter about that. And what they're doing is they're basically going ahead and looking at, as a percentage base, because remember, they have a system inside their system that does an algorithm to figure out the likelihood of whether or not you're going to improve. Their system is becoming more aggressive at figuring out whether or not likely somebody is going to improve. And, they know that if somebody stops working and that the types of jobs they were doing were like, more heavy, hardcore, blue collar, lift, push, pull, they know that if they stop doing those jobs, a certain percentage of disabled are going to significantly improve. Because, reception jobs, like, even a warehouse job compared to an outside, roofing job or tiling job, even a warehouse job is a good gig compared to like, a roofing job or a tile job. So what you have to understand is I think that there's going to be more bias for reviews against blue collar workers. Now, as a juxtaposition or, something to spin it and look at it in another way, a devil's advocate kind of thing, you have to understand too, a lot of the blue collar workers, they're really messed up physically. Like their bodies are very, very beat up. A lot of blue collar workers, they're selling in Fox News now that you could go be a blue collar worker and earn all this money. Yeah, true. If you own the company and you're not physically out there always doing it. But if you're physically out there always doing it, you get to your 40s and your body's worn out. You get to your 50s and there's barely no way that you can do it. Roofing, how many 60-year-old roofers do you know? How many 50-year-old workers do you know? 40-year-olds, there's still some out there, but it's not a middle age or middle older age job, right? Their bodies get destroyed from doing that. You're up and down ladders, you're carrying tons of stuff on your shoulder, you're constantly destroying yourself, What I'm seeing is now a dichotomy two little worlds, right? You have men who are now going into more physical labor, right? More because like the jobs that are like office jobs aren't available anymore. So I'm seeing more of the jobs, and it's two reasons. The office jobs are being taken over by AI, and basically women. Women have large control over the office job sector, right? That is a massively female oriented specific industry. And of course that's why women don't want to do roofing. They don't want to go out there with like, they don't want to go out there with a chainsaw. You know what I mean? Like, so that's just not, culturally, it's not the way. Physically, to lift the chainsaw, to have to like, lift the shingles on your shoulder and climb up a ladder. It's just, you know what I mean? It's just not whatever. No, so it is what it is. Although I will say this, with a lot of roofing, they do get a device that will put the shingles on the roof. The point I'm kind of getting at here, to be fair, is that I'm seeing a lot of men being pushed more into the blue collar marketplace, that normally would have ended some of them into the commercialized office space. But the bottom line is, I'm seeing men getting these reviews that were in blue collar oriented jobs, that once they stop working, there's an expectation that they're going to improve to some degree. And remember, they don't need you to get better. They just need you to improve slightly so that you would no longer be on disability benefits, so that they could claim you could go and do some office job as a receptionist somewhere. That's the reality. That's the situation. Now, some of you have a ton of impairments, tons of medication. Although, there's classic things like when I get a lot of disabled people on the phone that have that ego where they're like, they can't tell me to get a job when I used to do that. I'm not going to be a receptionist when I used to be a regional manager. You get a lot of, and the ego thing. Let me tell you something. The vice presidents, the district and the regional managers, those people have massive egos. Massive egos. There's no way around it. They have massive egos because they were in that position where they had to kick and push, right? Lower management and personnel to work harder and achieve things. And through that, they developed that judge godlike ego feature. You get above VPs to presidents, and it's a different type of ego, but they know they're one step away from getting fired every 5 years to be replaced by somebody else. So they're constantly in rotation. And then also you get, the middle class, the people that are like low level managers, the people that are, basically like, just working the job for the hourly. Those individuals, to be very clear, their ego is different, but also less of an ego. But it's that ego that when those individuals become disabled, it is shocking to them to realize that the SSA doesn't expect them to go do their past work. The SSA expects them to go do a different simple job where they would be earning, let's say $15 an hour, as opposed to $75 an hour or $55 an hour or whatever. That is a massive shock to them, where they're like, how could this be? How is this possible? So one thing that y'all have to kind of watch and be aware of, and just kind of be aware of what's going on with it, is that the Social Security Administration system is becoming more active on types of claimants that basically I'm seeing are getting reviewed and getting knocked off of benefits. And classic ones, like the classics where you get knocked off of benefits, you go to school and you get a degree. Because the point of it is like, if you're getting a degree, they expect you to go work. You get another job and you're working almost at SGA for a couple of years. Boom, you get knocked off of benefits because they expect you to go work a couple more hours. Another thing, is basically where you go and, you basically, and here's the main thing. Let's say that you are posting pictures of events that you go to, right? So let's say it's a guy on a Harley, and the guy on the Harley is driving out to Sturgis, right? Or let's say it's a female and she's riding her horse around some countryside area, right? These are things that are going to cause a situation where at the end of the day, bottom line, they're going to go ahead and take a look at you. Because, if you're claiming back issues and you're on a motorcycle or a horse, come on, it's one of those things. But I think realistically, a new category that we can enter that is certain types of jobs that you were working at and certain types of impairments that resulted from them, and then not working for like a year and seeing how the person is doing thereafter. I feel like those people are getting a lot more reviews than they used to. Neil Sessions, thank you for the $5 donation. Let me put a little heart on that. Said, hello, Walter. Will SSA send another letter if I faulted the first one? When you say faulted the first one, do you mean like ignored the first one or didn't do anything with the first one? Because remember that usually it's a two notice system. First notice is a letter, second notice is like a call. But I don't believe with a lot of their situation that they have to give a secondary notice, but they'll usually do a reach out with a call sort of situation. So to be fair, if you got a letter or you're not sure if you got a letter, you should call the SSA and ask them to send you another letter, because that's very, very, very true. So all right. And so another thing that you have to kind of understand too is that when it comes to reviewing people, now they've got AI systems hyper scanning all your medical documentation, as they go and purchase it and bring it in. So this idea of like somebody sitting there and reading millions of recipients disability, medical paperwork, that's over. That world isn't in the same way. Yeah, they have somebody review what the computer outputs, but the big thing of doing the initial research to figure out who's, still disabled or not, the computer is hyper analyzing and condensing all that information. So it's just not the same as it used to be. Another thing you have to kind of keep in mind too is that when it comes to disabled people, basically receiving their benefits, either SSI benefits or SSDI benefits, you have to understand that the computer systems are now going to become more hyper automated so that they can auto run checks on people to see if they're still disabled. And it's not something that will require as much human interaction when it comes to scheduling. Scheduling was a big thing. Now the computers can auto schedule it. They auto set you up for CDR review. And basically you're on rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Now, some people that I used to think, and if you get 1 point from this video, this is the point I want you to understand, okay? I used to think the people who were found disabled way back in the day were safe because they had to use the same rules and regulations that they used way back in the day to essentially claim that the person, was not disabled or is still disabled, whatever. And the rules way back in the day were much more liberal. But what I'm seeing now is people who have been on benefits for 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, getting a letter saying, hey, you haven't been to the doctor for 5 years. Hey, we noticed because we sent an investigator out to watch you that you were able to go shopping and pull things down. And the original claims that you made about limitations of walking distance and ambulatory devices are no longer true. I'm now starting to see what I used to think of as the protected class, like they were disabled, you couldn't touch them, they've been disabled for so long, kind of like the Hunger Games where they brought like the victors back. That's what I'm starting to see now. I'm starting to see those classes of individuals who were on disability benefits for a very long time getting investigated and basically losing their benefits because of lack of severity. So that is something that I didn't think was going to happen, but it's now starting to happen because the SSA, and remember, I see a lot more of them than you ever will because I'm in the industry of talking to people who, are in that situation. But I will say this, and I think this is the reality here. I think that the SSA, let's be realistic about this. The SSA is having a money problem, a big money problem, a trust fund problem. The money problem is so big that the federal government, who's supposed to back it, can't actually fix it because the $37 trillion in debt. So the whole reason we let the government manage our money was so that if something happened, they would be able to keep funding it. That unfortunately was a lie. That unfortunately was due to politicians on the Democrat and Republican side mishandling Social Security. And as a result of this whole situation where we're now sitting back going like, how the F did it get this bad? We're now seeing them trying to investigate and remove people that they can. SSI recipients for disability, SSDI recipients for disability. We're going to be seeing over the next couple of years, it is my belief, significant amounts of disabled people who will be removed from the program because they're not as severe as they were when they were found disabled. Now, technically, that's how the program's supposed to work. They use what's called the 8-step sequential process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 elements. But back in the day, everybody knew disabled people who had been on for 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, whatever. Everybody knew disabled people that were on for a very, very long time, and they were no longer really that disabled. They weren't that bad. I'm now seeing those types of people calling me for those 1 hour consultations where they like buy an hour or half an hour, or whatever. I'm now seeing those claims popping up. And I just didn't think I would. And so what that means is that they're becoming more aggressive at finding people who've been on for a really long time and then saying, hey, go find a job, go do this, go do that. And, it's one of those things where, now remember, on the VA side, they've got a 5-year rule, they got a 10-year rule, they got a 20-year rule where, basically after so much time, they can't reduce your rating, because you've been on it for so long, and it's tough to take somebody who's been on disability benefits for 20 years and say, guess what, we're removing them. Guess what, we're now going to need to go ahead and put you back to work. What's weird is that Social Security benefits don't have those protections. Maybe they should. What's also weird is that we don't have a scheduled reduction system. Have you ever wondered why we don't have a system where it's like you get benefits and then if you're ruled to be not disabled, they don't begin a scheduled reduction of how you receive them? You know what I mean? Sure, put some limitations on it, but there should be a scheduled reduction so that you monthly would get less and less and less, so that you would have some sort of way to ramp up getting a job. But instead, it's boom, they're cut off, over, done. Now you can claim, you get 10 days to have your benefits continue and continue and continue. You can claim that, right? But then once you get a denial at the ALJ hearing level, boom, they're cut off. That's it. I feel like a rule that would be good if they want to be this aggressive is essentially having a ramp down, if you will, of benefits when somebody's found to be not disabled. I think that would be important. I think that would be a good rule going forward. All right. With that said, I have to now get to work and work at the firm, doing calls, writing briefs, doing motions, having fun. Just kidding. So I will go ahead and catch up with you a little bit later. Please remember to have a wonderful, wonderful week. Attorney Walter Hnot, the most viewed, subscribed to, and clicked on Disability Attorney being. Please remember to like these videos because it will allow other people to learn what things I'm seeing and then prepare themselves in the future. You get some people in the comments or the chat, they're like, it's fear mongering. There's fear in this. But at this point, I think honestly, people need fear to actually change their life. I talk with disabled people all the time and they won't get out of the thing they're doing when a train called the Social Security Administration is about to railroad them and they won't have money the next month. So to be fair, when people claim fear mongering, I don't think you get it. I don't think those people understand what's going on. You have a person that hasn't worked for 15 years. And then 6 months later, or a year later, or whenever they get their ALJ decision, or if they don't opt in to continue to receive their benefits, that check is cut off. It's gone. There's no more money. So this whole, you fear-mongered them into what? Preparing? Going to the doctor to have a better claim? To what? Saving their life from having no money and being homeless and being on the street and being abused by people who are aggressive and hostile? You know what I mean? And I guess that's part of the problem. Here's another thing. Last night, I actually didn't go live last night. I didn't go live because I was tired. And also, I got this email from this person. Okay, here it is. I'm not going to read who exactly the person is. He put his information right at the top. He said, you allow some callers to drone on for 10 minutes without correcting them when I do that free session where I answer questions for free to the general public. So you allow some callers to drone on for 10 minutes without correcting them. If you do correct them, you do it politely and supportive. I survived and escaped one of the most horrifying civil rights violations in recorded history. The injuries I suffer are devastating. All you did, and this was during one of those free sessions where I was just talking to people, all you did was correct me and seemed to delight in putting me in my place. You've stated if you wanted money, you would be in litigation. You look and sound exactly like the lawyer that represented me. So now he's attacking my race of being a white person that's also Christian Jewish, who's an attorney. All he did was roll over and show his belly. The judge reprimanded him for his ineffective counsel. A jury awarded me nothing because of his incompetence. You never even answered my question. Is a court obligated to acknowledge an inadvertent confession of a crime? So just a quick note, when I do those free sessions, if I see that you're off track, I will usually go to the thing that you need to correct to get your ass back on track. Because if I don't forcefully shove reality down your throat, you will continue down the path that you already are going, which means you won't end up in a good spot. Now, if you don't realize that it takes somebody who is very emotionally strong and supportive of helping disabled people to push them in the right direction, go ahead and go with somebody else who doesn't do that. Go ahead with somebody else who doesn't call you, who doesn't interact with you. Now, I was pissed when I saw this. So this was my response. Hey, so just a heads up, insulting me and comparing me to another attorney who did a terrible job is not a great way to get someone to want to help you. And remember, this guy was just asking a question during the free session, not my client, just some random person, okay? Not a person that I am officially required to do a good job representing, okay? If a court is within jurisdiction of the crime committed and it's related to the adjudication at hand, they will admit it into evidence, research it, and proceed. However, if it is outside the scope of their adjudication, then they will ask you to report it to the correct prosecutor. If that prosecutor finds a nexus between the two claims, then the judges usually like to be kept up to date on the status of the other court's rulings. I'm going to end our discussion there, though, because I sound and look like the attorney that represented you. This is paragraph 2 now that I sent to him. By the way, I tried to send this email back to him. He sent me the email and then blocked my email to respond. So that's why I'm letting you know on this video. Imagine if this was the other way around. Imagine if I said something to you about your race or attacked you on how you remind me of a doctor who destroyed my life in surgery, and therefore you are a disgusting, miserable, rolled over belly professional. You would be pissed. You would be horrifically insulted, and you would tell the person to shove it. I'm not going to do that, but I should. You know better than to attack someone for absolutely no reason. If you believe you were put in any place, that's you. And your thoughts, seeing something other than what people are seeing. Literally donating my time to help those who don't have anything does not require your ego. Imagine that. Imagine you have $300,000 in student loans, down from $500,000, and some person reaches out during a free live session and says, hey, you aren't enough for what I'm demanding you to do for me. And on top of that, you are a pathetic professional. Imagine the egotistical level of you that I feel that he feels from this interaction. It's bad because we have two people now that hate each other. And it's a bad thing. It's somebody who had an ego to begin with that demanded I give him what he wanted. I have no obligation to do it. None at all. I help people for free because I want to. Those videos where I do those live things, they don't get shit for views. They don't make money. Okay? They're from a monetary standpoint, they are a losing money situation. Okay? So just to be clear, I think there's a problem with the ego that some people have in the disabled community marketplace of those who are disabled individuals. And I need you to take that ego and erase it, because if you don't realize what's going on in the long-term and even short-term sense with disability benefits, then you're not going to go to doctors, because you're going to say, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They can't fix me. It's not about fixing you. It never was. It was about creating evidence. You think medicine's going to magically fix you all the time? Yeah, maybe when AI figures out how to genetically alter people at the point where they can do it very quickly, basically somebody walks in, they take your blood and they got a pill that fixes it. Sure, then yeah, but not now, right? Not now. They don't have that ability right now. They just have it figured out on Christmas. They just got it in the laboratories figured out. So my point to you is, some of you need a kick in the butt to go to the doctor. Like, some of you are like, oh, I go to my doctor every 6 months, every 3 months, every 3 months. I don't really, it's not that bad. It's just, you do not understand that there is no legal protection for keeping your benefits other than they have to use the rules they once used to adjudicate you at that current standard in the current day, right? That's the only thing that protects you. It's not like the VA benefits where there's like the 20-year rule where like you are protected unless you're committing fraud. You don't have that if you're on Social Security disability or supplemental security income disability. You don't have that. So when people tell me, hey, or they pull that shit, what do you expect? Like it's weird. God, if I had a nickel for every time a disabled person told me it's not like they can fix anything at the hospital, bro, when did you not realize? I mean, did you not go through an entire adjudication with the SSA to realize that they had to use evidence to find you disabled to give you money? Like where was the misconnection on that? It's not about you magically getting better. If you got better, you would no longer get a check. It's about providing evidence of the severity of your impairments and your inability to work. All right. I will catch you all a little bit later. Have a wonderful, wonderful night, a wonderful day. I may be live later tonight. I'm a little bit tired. Last night I was actually a little bit sick too, but I will catch you all a little bit later. Please remember to like and subscribe. It's very, very crucial that you like and subscribe, because then other people get to see these videos, and it helps me make more videos because it helps pay for the time it takes to make these videos. Also, head over to Google, type in Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution, Florida. The law firm will pop right up. If you want to throw some stars up there, we always super appreciate it. With that said, also, if you need Medicare, I don't do Medicare, but I've partnered with Chapter. Basically, Chapter can do a tune-up on your Medicare plan. Give them a call. It's free if you want, but it's free. It's a free call. You call them. I know you have 15, 20 minutes. You can give them a call if you want, but basically they go through the largest database of available Medicare programs that you could use. Check in with them. You know what I mean? It's like, if you want to spend more money on a program that's not as good for you, go for it. But, again, it's a free thing. It's a free thing. At 339-226-6287. All right. I will catch you all a little bit later. Please remember that I normally go live on Mondays and Thursdays to answer questions for free. And if you need me to, work with you on something or go through something, there is a mini contract below for the 30-minute consultations and the 1-hour consultations. I will catch you all a little bit later. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and we will rock and roll from there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.